Welcome to Nevada Newsmakers. On the broadcast today, Assemblyman Jim Wheeler, the Nevada Assembly Minority Leader, will join us. Plus on the Power Pundit panel, Bryan, Wachter, and Ernie Adler. It's all coming up next on an all-new Nevada Newsmakers.
From your house to the White House, the folks at D&D Roofing can get it fixed with their eyes closed.
Nearly 200,000 Nevadans work in retail businesses, supporting families and the community. Nevada's retail businesses generated over $2 billion in sales tax revenue in 1 year, including nearly $700 million to help our schools. Shop around and see all that Nevada's retailers offer our state.
We're the Retail Association of Nevada, representing thousands of Nevada businesses.
Businesses that work for Nevada.
Pro Group Management is the place where companies can find workers' comp solutions that are designed to meet their specific business requirements. As regulations evolve, Pro Group takes a proactive approach to clear the path to make sure your business stays ahead of the curve. Knowing your workers' comp program is optimized, you can focus on other important matters related to your growing business. Pro Group Management, workers' comp that works for you.
Safety is the #1 priority for the trucking industry. Over $7 billion a year is spent on technology like this electronic eye that will apply the brakes automatically. But the most important factor for safety is the truck driver. These hardworking men and women who safely move over 70% of our nation's freight and 94% of Nevada's. We thank you because trucks move America forward.
This is Nevada Newsmakers with host Sam Shad, a no-holds-barred political forum. Now, from the Nevada Newsmakers broadcast headquarters, here is Sam Shad.
Back on Nevada Newsmakers, coming to you from the old Supreme Court in the Capitol. I'm joined here today by Nevada Assembly Minority Leader, Assemblyman Jim Wheeler. Pleasure to have you on the program, sir.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Sam. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you. Dr. Robin Titus is the respected Assemblywoman who's a member of your GOP Assembly caucus and represents areas of rural Nevada, including Yerington and parts of Lyon County. Dr. Titus wrote on Facebook after the passage of the background check gun bill that after a tough week at the Nevada legislature where our Second Amendment rights and rural way of life came under serious attack, it was great to celebrate her grandson's birthday. Saying that, do you feel that the rural way of life in Nevada is under attack in a legislature that's dominated by urban Democrats?
You know, I felt that our voice was not heard. Those of us in the rural areas, and of course I represent part of Lyon County, all of Story County, all of Douglas County, you know, very rural areas. I don't believe that we were heard in this particular bill being shoved through. They say, well, they didn't hurry this bill through. They did, as you know. And even so, 504 people from the rural areas showed up in opposition to this bill, to testify in opposition to this bill, while only 42 people signed in actual support of the bill. And most of those were from out of state. The ones that came in opposition were from here. So I think our voices need to be heard a little better as we go forward in this session. So yeah, I'm worried about rural Nevada not being actually represented in this session.
Are you also concerned that Clark County was the county that pushed this over the top versus the other 16 counties in the state? Are you concerned that we're back to a situation of North versus South on many issues?
You know, I see it happening. I see it coming again. And for years, we were able to talk back and forth and say, well, this won't be good for the North. And the other side would say, okay, we didn't realize that. It doesn't seem to matter in this session. And I hope that's not true. We're very early in the session. And I hope we'll be able to move on and actually talk back and forth and say, you know, we live in a different part of the state up here. This whole state isn't Clark County. So as you said, 16 counties did not want this bill, and it lost overwhelmingly in those 16 counties. But of course, our population center, our main one is Las Vegas and Clark County, and it passed down there. So when you look at the overall passage of the bill, it was less than 1%, but still enough to push it across. The biggest problem I have with the bill isn't north-south. The biggest problem I have was that people that voted for it based on television commercials, where the Bloomberg organization put somewhere between 15 and 20 million into Nevada in those commercials, they voted on something they didn't really know it was happening. When this bill went to committee, we found out all the flaws in the bill. We tried to put an amendment in that actually would have made the bill acceptable. That amendment was turned down on party lines, and it wasn't turned down north to south, it was turned down on Democrat to Republican. So that bothers me a lot. Now, let's talk about things. Let's not just push them through.
What kind of pressure did you get from the NRA on this bill?
Actually, we didn't get much pressure at all from the NRA on this bill.
Was it all done before the session, really?
Yes, it was done during the actual passage, of question 1. And the NRA came in and gave us points and showed flaws in the bill. But they didn't come to us and say, you must all vote no. First off, Republicans don't do that. Someone comes in and tells us how to vote, we might just back up and say, we are individuals and we all vote the same way. In this case, every Republican voted against this bill because we thought it was a flawed bill. It was not what the people thought they were voting on, even the people in Clark County. And we pointed those flaws out, yet the Democrats didn't want to fix them. And that's not good for this state, Sam.
Let me ask you this. At this point, you're facing a supermajority. Mm-hmm. You've made the comment that you're not the minority party, you're the opposition party. Right. What's your strategy for this session when, let's be honest, you're basically powerless on this side of the House?
Well, our strategy this time is to go straight to the people. And that's what we're doing. We've got a new communications director, and we've put together a communications plan where we can take a page from our president's book and go around the mainstream media. We are pushing hard on social media, we're pushing hard on emails, we're really out there in front of the people as much as humanly possible. We want to let the people know what's going on when the Senate, the Assembly, and the governor's mansion is controlled by one party, and the partisanship that results from that. Now understand that my counterpart, Speaker Frierson, has said many times that this is going to be a nonpartisan session. And I certainly hope that's true, and I hope that we'll be able to put input on bills, especially these big controversial bills, where we can see what the other side wants. Remember, Sam, we represent still 1 million people or so, in our districts, whether they're Republicans, Independents, or Democrats. In our districts, the Republican caucus still represents 1 million people in this state, or around there somewhere. They need to have a voice too. And I don't want their voice silenced. That's the main thing that I want to try to get through in this session. Their voice will be heard.
Speaker Frierson and Majority Leader Atkinson have both made the point that they don't want their caucuses to go too far to the left because they have concerns about that. Do you believe them, number one? And what indication do you have so far in talking to them that you're going to have a voice that's heard?
Well, I hope that they don't, obviously. We don't want them to go too far to the left, just like they didn't want us to go too far to the right in 2015, and we did not. It's not good for the state. It would be a different Nevada than I came to 20 years ago. I came here because this was the freest state in the union. This is where I always wanted to live. I grew up working on summers down here in the Carson Valley, on ranches down here, and I always wanted to live here. I couldn't afford it until later in my life. But I don't want this state to change too far to the left. It's a great state. I hope that they'll talk to us. Let's put it that way. Let's keep Nevada, Nevada.
Have those conversations begun?
Not much.
Really?
Yeah, not much. A lot of lip service, but not a whole lot of conversation.
What about with the governor? What's your relationship with Governor Sisolak? Because there are some that would say that if he lived anywhere but Clark County, he would have probably been a moderate Republican rather than a Democrat, as he's a businessman, and the way that we've seen him operate on the Clark County Commission. Do you draw any comfort from Governor Sisolak?
We do, to some extent. I don't think the governor wants the legislature to go, hard left, But I think also that we're two separate branches of government, and there's not a lot he can do about it other than make his wishes known to the caucuses over there.
He does have the veto.
He does have the veto pen, but it would be very hard for him to veto Democrat bills. The thing I like about Governor Sisolak is he is open to discussion. Our previous governor, if I wanted to talk to him, even though he was Republican and I was the leader of the caucus on the Republican side, I had to go through his chief of staff, Mike Weldon. Great guy, love the guy. This governor, I've got his cell phone number, and we text each other back and forth, and he answers me. I may not like his answer sometimes, but he does answer me. I'll give him that.
All right, let's take a break. More with the Minority Leader when we come back.
Tamarack Junction is South Reno's hotspot with over 450 of the latest slots and video games. Sully Sports Bar, the Dining Car Restaurant, William Hill Sportsbook, and the Tamarack Steakhouse and Lounge. We're just north of the Summit Mall in South Virginia.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Eric Robnett, owner of Home Energy Experts. Has this ever happened to you?
Honey, did you remember to turn down the thermostat?
Forgetting to set the temperature? Not fun. We can help. Our new smart thermostat keeps the temperature set for your comfort all by itself.
I'm feeling hot now.
To increase your comfort, go to homeenergyexperts.com for details. That's homeenergyexperts.com.
The signs and symptoms of cataracts can start out small with subtle changes in your vision. So don't wait. Be proactive and take your vision into your own hands. If you're experiencing the onset of cataracts or just have questions, contact your eye care professional or call Eye Care Associates of Nevada today. Dr. Hiss has years of experience specializing in the surgical correction of eye disorders and has completed over 84,000 vision correcting procedures. At Eye Care Associates of Nevada, we'll change the way you look at the world.
The Tamarack Junction Steakhouse is known for signature steaks, handcrafted cocktails, and world-class wines. Join us Thursdays and Friday nights from 4:30 to 6:30 in the Steakhouse Lounge for live music, gourmet plates, and well-priced wines, just north of the Summit Mall on South Virginia.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
Back on Nevada Newsmakers, coming to you from Carson City, we continue our conversation with the Nevada Assembly Minority Leader Jim Wheeler. Is the strategy for the Assembly Republicans to work hand in glove with the Republicans in the Senate, Senator Settlemyre especially, to be able to make yourselves any kind of potent force in this session?
Well, I think one of the things that's happening in this session is that Senator Settlemyre and I come from the same county.
Which is remarkable, both rural leaders.
Both rural cowboys. It's kind of amazing. But we're also very good friends and have been for years. So we discuss things literally daily. We have a weekly dinner on Sunday nights that we've been doing for years, actually, but now it's a caucus meeting dinner, basically. And I think that the two of us, the two caucuses, are working hand in hand together. We've had joint caucus meetings a couple of times already. We've put some of our committee members, for instance, theirs on Judiciary and ours on Judiciary, together in meetings to look at how we're going to handle certain things. I think the cooperation is unprecedented in Nevada.
Do you feel that you're going to be able to push bipartisan legislature to work with the Democrats, and if so, what kind of bills are you looking at that you could work together with the Democrats?
Well, we hope so, Sam. And let me get into some numbers for you. In 2015, when the Republicans controlled both of the houses of the legislature plus the governor's mansion, we decided that we would do some nonpartisan stuff. Yes, we wanted to push our issues through just like they do now, and I understand that. But remember, we put out 43% of Democrat bills came through first house passage in the Assembly. 43%. In 2017, when they held the legislature, 8% of Republican bills came through. So when you talk about nonpartisanship and working with the other side, show me some numbers. Don't go to the press and say how nonpartisan you are. Prove it. Okay? That's what I want to see in this session. So far, we've had one bill, and it's gone the wrong way.
Am I sensing an underlying sense of anger here at this point?
No, I'm not really angry. I understand that they control the House. There's no doubt about that. I don't like the fact that we're getting run over, and like I said to you, what bothers me more than anything, we represent 1 million Nevadans or so, somewhere 700,000 to 1 million too. I could actually get you those numbers by this afternoon, but those people's voice can't be silenced. That would anger anyone, okay? I'm not angry with the other side. They're doing their priorities. I get it. They won. Elections have consequences.
Okay, you're the primary sponsor of AB 99, which would mandate public school instruction on the founding principles of American government, including instruction on the Federalist Papers. Why is this necessary when students also have classes in civics and American history? And where do you fit this in an already busy day of education?
Well, I think you fit it into the civics and American history. But what we want to try to see is, if you've looked at college students today in some of the interviews, they have no idea what the Constitution says. They don't know what free speech is. To some of our college students that we see, free speech means that you can say whatever you want as long as I agree with it. Well, that's not what free speech is. So I think we need to get our founding principles together so that they know what the Constitution is and they know what it's supposed to mean. You know, they know that the Second Amendment protects the other amendments. They know that free speech means you're allowed to say something on this show that is outrageous, but it's okay because it's your speech. I don't have to agree with it. That's what free speech means. They know that no police officer can come bang down your door without a warrant and without due process. And we're about to see a bill come through that's going to do just that, allow police officers to come confiscate your guns without due process. They need to know that that's not constitutional.
Okay, quick answer here on this one because we're running out of time. The president is going after California, looking to get the money that was put in from the federal government on high-speed rail, taking that back because of California's opposition to his emergency powers move. Do you fear for Nevada that we may see something, and if so, what?
You know, I don't think that, I think the president really likes Nevada, and we've seen that in his actions. I think he visited here 8 times, for instance, for a state that has 6 electoral votes. You know, he likes Nevada. So I'm hoping that that doesn't happen because this president seems to work a lot on emotion, and hopefully he'll, you know, be able to talk to us, and we are able to communicate with him, by the way. And that's another thing I really like about this guy is we're able to communicate with him. So I hope that nothing like that happens here.
All right, and that's where we got to leave it. Please come back. We appreciate that. We'll see you later on in the session.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll be right back.
Dimitri Bryan here for Design Outdoor. Are you a homeowner who's interested in remodeling or building a home? At Design Outdoor, we can show you how adding natural or manufactured masonry stone can add beauty and value to your home. And we refer only the best contractors. Our store and backyard are located at 11600 South Virginia, just north of DeMonte Ranch Parkway. Visit designoutdoor.com or call us at 851-9499.
One of the most psychologically damaging things parents can do to children in divorce is disparage one another, which is why I can't believe I even have to make this commercial. Half of your kids' genetics come from this person you're spewing hate about. Your children have the right to love you both, but more than that, they deserve to love themselves.
Marilyn York might be a men's rights divorce attorney, but this is for every selfish parent. Shut up.
Hi, I'm Dave Newman. Remember me? I used to be the house detective, and now I'm a realtor, full-time at RE/MAX Realty Affiliates. A lot of people ask me, how's the market? You know what? It's fantastic. If you're even kicking around the idea of buying or selling, give me a call. Let's talk about it. Call me at RE/MAX Realty Affiliates and just ask for the guy who used to be the house detective, Dave Newman.
Everyone is talking about opioids, but they're not the only drugs that can be harmful if taken in large quantities or not as prescribed. You also need to be aware of side effects from anxiety drugs, muscle relaxants, sleep aids, and stimulants. Mixing prescription drugs with other drugs or alcohol can be dangerous. If you take Ambien with a glass of wine, it may be enough to stop you from breathing. Prescribed drugs can be just as dangerous as illegal drugs. Take medications only as directed.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, coming to you from the old Supreme Court in the Capitol in Carson City. We're here with former State Senator Ernie Adler and Bryan Wachter, who's the Senior Vice President of Retail Association of Nevada. Pleasure to have you both here. So in just talking with Jim Wheeler, the leader of the minority Republicans, with a supermajority in the Assembly, what leverage do Republicans have?
Well, they don't have a lot of leverage, obviously, but I think that their real leverage is to try and work with the other side on common bills to try and get those passed.
And can you give us some examples of what those might be?
Well, I think I brought up earlier, you know, things like wildfire suppression in some of the rural counties and grid hardening for the electrical system so we don't have a fire like they had in California, which is devastating and costs billions of dollars. I think those are types of issues that Republicans and Democrats can work on to shore up our electrical systems.
Bryan, the relevance of the Republicans in the Assembly in this session?
Well, I think that's maybe a step too far, Sam. I think there's still some internal struggle within the Assembly Republican caucus that really needs to be kind of fleshed out and answered before I think the caucus can step up and say, here's our priorities and this is how we're going to work together.
So for those that don't understand that inside baseball, explain what the
there's a lot
division
of
is.
There's a lot of new staff, certainly, I think in the minority Assembly caucus, and so I think there's some issues about making sure, you know, communications have been going out as smooth as possible, and just some other issues that I think are taking place. And so I really hope that they can kind of coalesce around each other and figure out what their priorities are so that they can start having conversations about how to leverage, you know, public opinion or you know, policy and get it done. Where I think the opposite, say the Senate Republican caucus seems to have already done that step. And so they seem to be a lot more effective at how they're able to kind of manage the process and be a player. And so it'll be interesting to see how those shape up in the next 100 days.
Ernie, you brought up the idea of wildlife prevention, prevention, not wildlife prevention. And this is based on what happened in California with these unbelievable fires that broke out. And to an extent, PG&E has had a lot of responsibility toward this. What do you think in terms of, you know, Range Magazine, for example, has spent years talking about, you know, fire suppression through, you know, ranchers. Is that something that's a viable issue as far as you're concerned? I mean, we've seen things like that even here in Carson City with goats eating the excess forage on the hillsides here.
Well, that's one of the pieces of the puzzle, but what we're really looking at is getting Department of Forestry here in Nevada, which has been very active, getting their crews out and hitting critical areas and removing brush and tree limbs and so forth from around the electrical systems. And I think they're capable of doing that. But also I think there needs to be some sort of independent body that inspects and makes sure that all of this brush clearing is being done. And then, of course, we need to look at hardening of the electrical grid so that it doesn't spark and cause fires. So there's 4 or 5 different components to having a viable electrical fire prevention program going on.
Your thoughts on this, Bryan?
Well, we certainly can't afford it when the fires start, so we should probably start investing in how to make sure that they don't get that far. And so I think we should see more of an investment in how to make sure these things don't occur, because we found out that, you know, when they do, it's getting very difficult to stop them. It's getting very difficult to contain them, especially when they're multi-state projects. And we've seen that the feds are a little hesitant to keep funding some of those monies. So we need to make sure that we're putting the appropriate amount into fixing this problem first.
One of the big issues in California has been the number of these fires that were man-caused. They weren't caused by climate change. They weren't caused by lightning. They were caused by humans.
Well, they were, but the climate change has caused the severity of the fires. For instance, in California, it's estimated they have 150 million dead trees that need to be removed in California. So obviously you can't remove those. So you have to target certain areas. But those dead trees are caused by drastic changes in the climate. They wouldn't be there otherwise. They weren't there years ago. So that is a big problem. And then you're right, a lot of these fires then are man-made, but at that point they really take off because there's so much dead and dying debris around the state of California.
Dead and dying debris, but do you agree it's climate change?
Well, I think something is happening. I think we've seen that with the weather here in the last 2 weeks, and so I think we have seen consequences.
Hang on. That's weather versus climate.
Well,
weather is what's happening today. Climate is what happens over a long
We've seen an
period.
unusual amount of weather that I think is directly related to changes in climate. And so to say that there are trees that are dying and dead that weren't before, I think there's certainly some evidence to that. And I think the problem goes beyond fires. When the vegetation is either dying from natural causes or dying from fires, the ground and soil is no longer held together, and we've seen massive mudslides and flooding now in California. So the problem comes full circle. If we don't fix one part of it, we're just going to start seeing consequences in others.
And this is not a new issue with mudslides and things like that. I lived in Sausalito back in the 70s, and we saw the same situations. We saw long-term drought where people were limited to 35 gallons of water a day, and as soon as the drought was over and we got rain, you had mudslides. I mean, this was nothing unusual. A quick question, Ernie, because we're running out of time here. Howard Schultz, running as an independent, but a Democrat, does that really cause concerns for you as a Democrat?
Yeah, yes, it does, because I think if we have a third-party candidate thrown in that mostly appeals to Democratic voters, I think that would take votes away from the candidate who is nominated for the presidency and from the Democratic Party. So. And
a quick answer, Bryan, from your perspective.
I think the more the merrier. I think if people aren't happy with either the Democrats or the Republicans and someone wants to step up and says, I have another idea, they should be able to do that.
And do you think a third-party candidate is viable?
No.
And that's where we have to leave it. We'll be right back.
A bird's eye captures its surroundings at different heights. At Bryan Culpa Photography, we can make your imagination soar over buildings, parks, cityscapes, and beyond. Bryan's images tell the story and get the job done. If you need a new perspective to tell your story, contact Bryan today. Bryan Culpa Photography. Experience the bird's eye view at bryanculpaphotography.com.
Hi, my name's Marilyn Miner, and I'm sure you'd agree that Nevada's a very special place to live. I was born here, and my husband and I have raised our family here. I feel it's a privilege to live and work in the Truckee Meadows. I especially enjoy helping my clients reach their real estate goals. Sometimes the smallest details provide the greatest satisfaction. I'd be complimented to talk to you about your next move.
Call Marilyn Miner at Dixon Realty, 742-1280, or log on to marilynminer.com.
St. Ives Florist, for every holiday and every special occasion, for romance. Custom home design. We have the largest selection of fresh flowers in northern Nevada, and we also offer a large selection of unique gift items. Come see me, Lori Ann, at St. Ives Florist, 700 South Wells Avenue, or call me at 333-9190.
Now you can watch Nevada Newsmakers on YouTube. We have our own channel. Just search Nevada Newsmakers. We'll see you on the next broadcast.